Tonight, you'll discover how ancient Buddhist wisdom can help you quiet your mind and bring deep, restful peace into your life. In the next few hours, you'll embark on a journey that will take you through timeless Zen stories, each one carrying its own lesson, gently guiding you toward mental relaxation and spiritual clarity. These stories have been passed down through the generations, used by Buddhist monks for centuries to calm the restless mind and cultivate inner stillness. Now it's your turn to experience their soothing power. So, before we settle in, feel free to like and subscribe only if this space brings you peace. And if you'd like, share your location and local time in the comments so we can connect through the shared experience of this moment. So make yourself comfortable. Adjust your pillow. Let your body become heavy against the bed, allowing the ground beneath you to support your weight. Feel the muscles in your shoulders, your back, and your legs slowly soften as you settle into a place of comfort. Take a deep breath in with me now, slowly filling your lungs with fresh air, and then gently release it, allowing any tension to melt away. Let the rhythm of your breath guide you deeper into relaxation as we begin our journey together. As we explore these stories, I encourage you to stay relaxed and open, knowing that these teachings are not just for the mind, but for your heart as well. With each story, you'll uncover valuable insights and practices that can bring more peace, clarity, and joy into your life. You need not have any previous experience with Buddhism or meditation, just the willingness to listen, to reflect, and to allow these teachings to gently work their way into your heart. Tonight, you're not alone on this journey. The wisdom of the Buddha is here offering its gentle guidance, so let go of any distractions. Let go of any worries or thoughts, and simply be present. Allow yourself to fully embrace this moment. You are here now, and this journey is just beginning. Now dim the lights, maybe light a candle or incense, and let's wander into stillness together. Let's begin with our first story. There once was a man who loved the solitude of the river. Every evening, as the world turned golden with the setting sun, he would take his boat out on the peaceful waters, drifting gently with the current. The river was a place of quiet contemplation. For him, a place where he could connect deeply with the natural world and find peace within himself. As he rowed, there was a sense of calm, as if the rhythm of his paddle and the flowing water created a perfect harmony, a union between himself and nature. On one such evening, as the boat gently moved forward with the river's current, he noticed something in the distance. Another boat was heading directly toward him. At first, the man called out softly, "Be careful," in hopes the other boater might change course, but the boat did not respond. It kept coming toward him, seemingly on a collision course. And as it got closer, his sense of peace began to unravel. His heart quickened, and with it, his anxiety. His thoughts spiraled out of control as he watched the boat draw nearer. "Move aside," he shouted, growing louder with each passing moment. "You're going to crash into me." His peaceful evening, so carefully crafted in his mind, was now filled with frustration and mounting anger. He could no longer understand why the other boat wasn't veering away, as any reasonable person would do. How could they be so careless? As the two boats finally collided, the man was ready to explode with anger, ready to unleash all of his frustrations. But when he looked closely at the boat, something stopped him in his tracks. The boat was empty. There was no one inside. It was simply drifting along with the current, carried by forces beyond anyone's control, without any direction or purpose. The man's anger evaporated in an instant. He sat there in stunned silence, his face flushed with the realization of what he had done. He had been shouting at an empty boat at nothing. The situation had not changed. The boats had still collided. What had changed, however, was his perception of the situation. His anger had been fueled by a false narrative, a story he had constructed in his mind. There had been no intentional harm, no carelessness, no disrespect. There had been only the boat drifting on the river, unaffected by the man's emotional turmoil. His reaction to the situation had created the suffering, not the event itself. The Buddha once said, "You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger." This profound statement is beautifully illustrated in the story of the empty boat. The man's suffering arose not from the collision, but from the anger he had attached to it. The moment he recognized that the boat was empty, he understood that his anger was not only unnecessary, but it had also harmed him more than anyone else. In Zen Buddhism, this story teaches us a powerful lesson about how we interact with the world around us. Often, our suffering does not stem from the external world itself, but from the way we react to it. The man in the story had filled the empty boat with his own anger, fear, and frustration. This is a common habit we all share in our lives. We create stories often based on little to no evidence about the intentions of others, and we allow those stories to shape our emotional reactions. Take a moment now and reflect. How often do we fill empty boats in our own lives? Think about a time when someone cut you off in traffic, or when a friend didn't respond to your message right away. How often do we assume malice, disrespect, or carelessness in these situations? We are quick to fill these empty boats with our anger, projecting our own emotions onto others, believing that their actions are a personal affront. What if, just like the man in the story, we could pause and recognize that many of our frustrations arise not from the reality of the situation, but from the stories we tell ourselves? What if we could see situations for what they truly are, without attaching assumptions, judgments, or preconceived notions? What if we could let go of the need to react and simply allow life to unfold as it is, without the need to assign blame or create a narrative? The Buddha taught that true peace comes from within, not from external circumstances. When we stop projecting our anger and assumptions onto the world, we create space for understanding, compassion, and peace. This doesn't mean we will never face challenging situations, but it does mean that we can choose not to let those situations control our emotions or our responses. When we recognize the empty boats in our lives, we free ourselves from the suffering we impose on ourselves. Think back to the last time you felt anger rising within you. Did you, like the man in the story, fill an empty boat with your own assumptions? Did you create a narrative in your mind that fueled your frustration or resentment? Tonight, as you reflect on your day, consider those moments when you might have reacted too quickly or too harshly. Can you see how your mind created a story, a false narrative that distorted the situation? Can you feel the freedom that comes from recognizing this, from letting go of the assumptions and judgments that fuel your emotional reactions? The next time you find yourself in a similar situation, remember the empty boat. When you feel anger or frustration rising, take a deep breath and pause. Notice the space between the event and your reaction. In that pause, allow yourself to let go of the assumptions and projections you've made. See the situation for what it truly is, without the weight of your emotional story attached to it. By doing this, you will find that the anger, the frustration, and the resentment you often carry are not necessary. The peace you seek is already within you. waiting to be uncovered as soon as you let go of your need to react. In Zen practice, mindfulness plays a key role in helping us catch these moments of reactivity. Through mindfulness, we can become more aware of our thoughts and emotions as they arise. By observing them without judgment, we can begin to break free from the automatic patterns of anger and frustration that we have built over time. Mindfulness helps us notice the empty boats before we react to them, giving us the space to choose a response that is grounded in peace, understanding, and compassion. This story carries a profound lesson about the power of mindfulness and the nature of fear. Let us now journey to a mountain path where a monk faces an unexpected challenge, one that teaches us not only about fear, but also about the strength that arises from staying present. Let us now explore the story of the monk and the tiger. Let's take a moment to imagine a peaceful mountain path surrounded by lush green trees, the scent of fresh pine in the air, and the distant sound of birds singing. A Zen monk, wise and calm, walks along this path every day, taking in the beauty of the natural world around him. He is at peace, fully present with each step, each breath. One afternoon, while walking through the woods, the monk hears a loud sound, a deep, thunderous roar. His heart skips a beat, and he turns to see a large, fierce tiger charging toward him through the underbrush. The tiger's eyes are locked onto him, and its powerful body moves with terrifying speed. In an instant, the monk's calmness is replaced by the primal instinct to flee. His feet feel heavy as he begins to run, his robes flying behind him as he sprints down the narrow path. Ahead, the monk sees a steep cliff, and as he approaches, he grabs a vine that hangs down the edge. He begins to climb, hoping to escape the danger below. But as he climbs, his gaze shifts downward and his heart sinks. At the bottom of the cliff, another tiger waits, pacing back and forth. He is trapped no way up and no way down. Suspended between two tigers, the monk pauses. He is frightened, his breath shallow, his body tense. For a moment, time seems to stop. But then something catches his eye. Just within reach, growing from the side of the cliff, is a small, wild strawberry plant. A single ripe strawberry hangs from the vine. The monk looks at it for a long moment, and without thinking, he reaches out, plucks the berry, and gently places it into his mouth. The sweetness of the strawberry floods his senses. For that brief moment, there is nothing but the simple joy of the fruit's taste, sweet, fresh, perfect. Despite the danger around him, despite the tigers waiting above and below, the monk finds peace in this single moment of mindfulness. His fears vanish, and he feels a deep sense of contentment. In that moment, he is fully present, connected to the world around him, and at peace with what is. This story carries a powerful lesson about the nature of fear and the profound importance of being present. Initially, when faced with the tiger, the monk's first reaction was one that we can all relate to fear. It is a natural, instinctive response to danger, the desire to flee, to run from the perceived threat. The tiger, with its raw power and speed, symbolized the overwhelming force of fear. The kind of fear that drives us to act without thought, to make hasty decisions in the face of the unknown. But then, as the monk found himself trapped, suspended between two tigers, he was faced with an impossible situation. There was no escape, no way forward or backward. The moment of panic passed, and he was forced to let go of his fear. In that moment of stillness, when he had no choice but to accept his situation, he found something more powerful than fear the present moment. It was in the simple act of savoring the sweetness of a wild strawberry that he experienced a profound sense of peace, something that fear could not touch, something that the tigers could not take from him. The strawberry, small and insignificant in the grand scheme of things, became a symbol of presence, a reminder that in the simplest of moments, we can find the greatest peace. So often in our own lives, we are like that monk. We find ourselves running from our fears, chasing after a sense of security or comfort, constantly seeking refuge from the unknown. We spend so much of our energy worrying about the future, consumed by anxieties over what may happen or what may not happen, that we forget to live in the present moment. We carry regrets from the past, ruminating on decisions we've made or opportunities missed, and we allow these thoughts to cloud our present experience. We feel the weight of time pressing against us, and we can't help but react with fear, with uncertainty, and with the need to control our circumstances. But as the monk's story shows us, true peace is not found in running away from fear or in escaping from our circumstances. It is found in embracing the present moment, in accepting life as it is, no matter how uncertain or difficult it may seem. The Buddha taught, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." In this simple yet profound teaching, the Buddha guides us toward a path of mindfulness, urging us to focus on the present. We are not meant to ignore the past or the future, but we are invited to free ourselves from the constant worry and fear that arises when we cling to them. The monk suspended between the two tigers did not try to escape his situation, nor did he waste time wishing it were different. He did not attempt to change the course of events or fight against the inevitable. Instead, he focused on something simple, a small, ripe strawberry growing right before him, offering him a taste of the present moment. And in that moment, he was able to experience peace, the kind of peace that is not dependent on external circumstances, but is found within, in the quiet acceptance of what is. In our own lives, we are often caught between our own tigers, pressures from work, fears about the future, regrets from the past. How often do we let these fears dominate our thoughts, cloud our minds, and pull us away from the peace that is always available in the present? We get so caught up in our thoughts and our worries about what might happen, or what has already happened, that we forget to simply be. We forget to savor the small moments, the simple pleasures, the sweetness of the present, just as the monk did with the strawberry. It's easy to let fear control us, to let it drive our decisions and actions. But true peace lies in letting go of that fear, in returning to the present moment. Take a moment now to reflect. When was the last time you felt overwhelmed by fear or worry? Can you recall a time when your mind raced with anxious thoughts, when you found yourself consumed by what might happen or what you regret? How did it feel to be caught in that storm of thoughts? What would it have been like to pause, just as the monk did, to take a deep breath, to release the anxiety, and instead focus on something simple and beautiful in the present? Perhaps it was the warmth of the sun on your skin, the sound of a bird singing, or the feeling of the ground beneath your feet. These moments, these simple sensations are always available to us, but we often miss them because we are so caught up in our worries and fears. This practice is called mindfulness. Mindfulness is the act of bringing your attention back to the present moment, of noticing what is around you and experiencing life without the distractions of worry or fear. Just like the monk found peace in the strawberry, you too can find peace by focusing on something small, something simple, a breath, a smile, the sound of the wind. In these moments, you reconnect with yourself, with the present, and with the peace that is always there, waiting to be experienced. As we continue on our journey tonight, let us keep the monk's story in mind. Next time you face a moment of fear or anxiety, Try to pause and simply breathe. Ground yourself in the present. Allow yourself to experience the simple joys of life, just as the monk did with the strawberry. Let go of the need to control or change the situation. Trust that in the present moment, you can always find peace, and that peace is enough. You don't need to escape your fears or change your circumstances. You need only to be present to accept what is and to find beauty in the simplicity of now. Take a deep breath now and allow yourself to be fully present with each story and teaching that unfolds. Embrace this moment knowing that it is all you need to experience the peace and wisdom that lie within you. Let the present be enough and let peace fill your heart. As the monk savored the strawberry amidst danger, we might ask ourselves, can we find peace even in life's challenges? And when faced with suffering, how do we respond? Let's explore in the next story about the two arrows and how we can shift our perspective on suffering. Once the Buddha sat in front of his followers and began to speak about the nature of suffering, a subject that he had spent much of his life contemplating and sharing with others. His voice was calm, yet filled with the deep wisdom of a life lived in pursuit of truth. He said, "Imagine that a person is struck by an arrow. The pain that comes from the arrow is unavoidable. It is a part of life, part of being human. But what if, after the first arrow has struck, the person becomes angry, frustrated, or consumed with despair? What if they pick up another arrow and strike themselves a second time, intensifying the pain they already feel?" The Buddha paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle into the hearts of his listeners. He continued, "The second arrow is unnecessary. The first arrow, the pain of life, the inevitable suffering, is something we cannot escape. It is part of the human condition. But the second arrow, the reaction to that pain, is something we choose. It is through our reaction to suffering that we prolong it, that we create even more pain for ourselves." The Buddha's teaching was simple yet profound. He showed that while suffering is an inevitable part of life, how we choose to respond to that suffering determines how much we continue to suffer. The first arrow, whether it is the loss of a loved one, the pain of illness, disappointment, or even death, is unavoidable. This is the nature of life. The second arrow, however, is a product of our emotional reactions. It arises from the anger, resentment, fear, and attachment we carry. It is through these emotional responses that we compound our suffering, making it much more unbearable than it originally was. The Buddha's teaching on the two arrows is a powerful reminder that while we cannot always control the events that cause us pain, we do have control over how we respond to them. The first arrow, the unavoidable pain, is a part of life. We may experience hardship, loss, or disappointment, but the way we react to these events can either trap us in endless cycles of suffering or help us find freedom and peace. Consider a moment in your life when you experienced pain or hardship. Perhaps it was the loss of someone dear to you, the sudden onset of illness, or an event that caused you great disappointment. The first arrow, the pain of the experience, was inevitable. But did you also create a second arrow by how you responded to the pain? Did you allow anger, bitterness, or self-blame to intensify your suffering? Did you, like so many of us, grab that second arrow and strike yourself again? Or did you, as the Buddha teaches, recognize the pain for what it was and choose not to strike yourself with the second arrow? It is important to note that the Buddha does not ask us to suppress or deny our emotions. It is entirely natural to feel pain when we face difficult situations. Pain is a part of the human experience, and it is something we all must face in various forms. What the Buddha encourages us to do is to observe our reactions to the pain with mindfulness. He invites us to recognize when we are adding unnecessary suffering to our lives through our emotional responses, and to practice letting go of the second arrow that we so often strike ourselves with. Take a moment now to reflect on your own experiences. Think about times when you have been struck by the first arrow, perhaps a painful event, a loss, a challenge, and then think about how you reacted to that pain. Did you allow yourself to become consumed by anger, frustration, or fear? Did you blame yourself or others, adding more suffering to the pain you already felt? Or did you, like the Buddha teaches, choose to let go of the second arrow? It's important to understand that recognizing and letting go of the second arrow does not mean we ignore our emotions. It simply means that we stop feeding the pain with more negative reactions. The Buddha's teaching is not about suppressing the natural responses we have to life's challenges. It's about accepting the pain and then releasing the unnecessary suffering that arises from our reactions. Now think about the times when you have responded to pain with mindfulness. Perhaps you've experienced a moment of deep grief, but instead of allowing that grief to spiral into despair, you found a way to gently accept it and sit with it. Perhaps you've faced a challenge that once caused you great anxiety, but through patience and mindfulness, you were able to meet it with calmness and clarity. These moments, though they may be fleeting, are glimpses of the freedom that comes when we stop striking ourselves with the second arrow. The practice of mindfulness can help us become aware of the second arrow as it arises. Through mindfulness, we learn to observe our thoughts and emotions without immediately reacting to them. We begin to notice when we are creating unnecessary suffering, and we can choose to let it go. This practice does not require us to avoid pain or pretend that we are not hurting. Instead, it invites us to fully accept the pain and then release the additional suffering caused by our emotional reactions. Each time we catch ourselves adding a second arrow, we have the opportunity to let go. We can choose not to follow the path of anger, blame, or fear. Instead, we can take a deep breath, acknowledge the pain, and choose to move forward with an open heart and a peaceful mind. This is the true practice of the Buddha's teaching to respond to pain, not with more pain, but with the wisdom of acceptance, understanding, and compassion. Consider the power of choosing not to strike yourself with the second arrow. Every time you make this choice, you create space for peace and healing. You allow yourself to feel pain without becoming consumed by it. You create the conditions for deep inner freedom, the kind of freedom that comes not from avoiding pain, but from embracing it fully, without adding to it. Imagine what it would be like to live your life without striking yourself with the second arrow. What if, when faced with pain, you could acknowledge it and then let it go without attaching unnecessary layers of anger, guilt, or fear? What if, instead of creating more suffering, you could transform each painful moment into an opportunity for growth, compassion, and wisdom? This is the freedom the Buddha speaks of, a freedom that comes from not allowing our emotional reactions to dictate our lives. It is the freedom to live fully in each moment, no matter the circumstances. It is the freedom to experience pain without being trapped by it. As you go through your day, notice how often you add a second arrow to the inevitable pain of life. Take note of when your reactions intensify your suffering. And in those moments, remember, the Buddha's teaching you have the power to let go. You have the power to release the second arrow and experience life as it is without the added weight of unnecessary suffering. Each time you practice this, you come closer to the peace and freedom that the Buddha promises. It is not an easy path, but it is a path worth walking. And with each step, you will find that the suffering that once felt unbearable becomes more manageable, more transitory, and eventually it will be transformed into a source of wisdom and compassion. As we move forward on our journey through Zen, we arrive at a profound teaching that addresses one of the most powerful aspects of the human experience: our reactions. The next story centers around the wisdom of non-reaction, a concept that can bring us profound peace and freedom. This lesson is often exemplified through the Buddha's remarkable ability to remain calm and composed, even when faced with insults and provocations. Let's now explore how the Buddha's teaching on non-reaction offers us the key to mastering our emotions and finding true inner peace. In a small village near the edge of the forest, the Buddha and his disciples were traveling through the region, spreading teachings on peace and enlightenment. Word of the Buddha's wisdom had spread far and wide, and people from all walks of life came to hear him speak. On one particular day, as the Buddha sat quietly teaching a group of people about compassion and mindfulness, a man approached him with anger in his eyes. This man, filled with frustration and bitterness, had heard of the Buddha's fame and was determined to challenge him. As he stood before the Buddha, he began to hurl insults at him. "You are nothing but a fraud," the man shouted. "Your teachings are foolish. You have no right to speak of peace when you do nothing but deceive others." The Buddha, sitting in perfect stillness, did not flinch. He did not raise his voice in anger, nor did he respond with any sharp words of his own. He simply looked at the man with deep compassion, offering him no reaction at all. The man, growing more furious by the moment, continued to berate the Buddha. "Why don't you defend yourself? Why don't you speak back and show me that you are not a coward?" he demanded. But still, the Buddha remained silent, his face serene, untouched by the venomous words that were being thrown at him. Finally, after several minutes of intense anger directed at the Buddha, the man, exhausted and bewildered by the Buddha's non-reaction, stopped. He stood there panting and seething, unsure of what to say next. The Buddha calmly looked at him and asked, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man, still somewhat angry but taken aback by the Buddha's question, replied, "It belongs to the person who offered it, of course." The Buddha smiled gently and said, "Just as you have offered me insults and I have not accepted them, so too your anger and hatred belong to you. I do not take them. It is only you who suffer from them." In that moment, the man was struck with the truth of the Buddha's words. He stood there in silence, his anger dissolving. He realized that his anger and insults had been a burden to himself, and that by offering them to the Buddha, he had only deepened his own suffering. The Buddha's calm presence had allowed him to see that his emotional reactivity was his own responsibility. He had the choice to hold on to it or to let it go. The Buddha then continued, "Anger is like a fire. When you stoke it, it grows and consumes you. But if you do not feed it, it will eventually die out. It is only through non-reaction that you can find freedom from its grip." This story offers us a profound teaching on the power of non-reaction, a concept that, though simple, can have a deeply transformative impact on the way we live our lives. Every day, we are confronted with countless situations that trigger strong emotions within us. These can be as seemingly minor as someone cutting us off in traffic, or as significant as a colleague undermining our efforts, a friend saying something hurtful, or even someone treating us unfairly. In these moments, our natural instinct is often to react, to defend ourselves, to strike back, to retaliate in some way that justifies our hurt and frustration. It's easy to believe that reacting is our only option, that it is how we protect ourselves from the actions of others, and that in doing so, we are asserting our boundaries or standing up for ourselves. However, the Buddha teaches us a much deeper truth. Reacting to these situations, especially with anger, frustration, or resentment, only perpetuates our suffering. It's not the situation itself that causes harm, but our attachment to the emotions we feel as a result of it. When we react, we allow ourselves to be controlled by the very things that cause us harm. In doing so, we become entangled in our own emotional turmoil and find it difficult to move past these negative feelings. The Buddha's example of non-reaction is a perfect demonstration that we are not helpless in the face of provocation. Though it might seem like we have no choice but to react, we always have the power to choose how we respond. Instead of letting anger or frustration consume us, we can choose to remain calm, to stay centered, and to observe our emotions without allowing them to dictate our actions. By practicing non-reaction, we create a mental space between the stimulus, whatever event or behavior, triggers our emotions and our response. In this space, we have the freedom to choose our actions, and in doing so, to free ourselves from the grip of anger or resentment. This freedom allows us to find peace even amidst chaos, to maintain inner tranquility when everything around us seems to be falling apart. This doesn't mean that we become numb to our emotions or pretend we are unaffected by the world around us. It does not mean suppressing our feelings or denying their existence. Emotions are a natural part of being human, and it's okay to feel anger, sadness, or frustration. However, practicing non-reaction teaches us not to identify with those emotions, not to let them control us, and to understand that they do not define who we are. It means we no longer allow these emotions to dictate our behavior or shape our decisions. When we practice non-reaction, we learn to pause before we act. In that pause, we create a moment of clarity, a space where we can check in with ourselves and choose our response with wisdom rather than simply reacting out of habit or instinct. In this space, we can ask ourselves, what would bring me peace in this moment? How can I respond in a way that aligns with my values and who I truly am? By taking a deep breath and observing the emotions that arise, we can let go of the impulse to lash out or retaliate, and instead choose kindness, understanding, or even silence. It's in this mindful space that we begin to cultivate a new way of being, one that does not react to external circumstances, but rather responds with the calm awareness of the present moment. Reflecting on this teaching, we can begin to apply it to our own lives. Think about a recent situation where you felt anger, frustration, or resentment arising inside you. Perhaps it was something small, like someone cutting you off in traffic, or something more significant, like a misunderstanding with a friend or family member. How did you react in that moment? Did you let your emotions take control of your actions, responding immediately in a way that escalated the situation? Or did you pause, breathe, and allow the anger to pass before responding? In moments like these, we are faced with a choice. We can either react in a way that perpetuates the cycle of negativity, or we can choose to pause, create space, and choose a different path. The next time you encounter a situation that triggers anger or frustration, remember the Buddha's teaching on non-reaction. Take a moment to recognize the space between the event and your reaction. This is where the power lies. In this space, you have the opportunity to choose your response. You can choose to breathe deeply and let go of the initial emotional surge, allowing your calmness to return. You can choose to respond with kindness and understanding, to look beyond the surface of the situation, and recognize that the other person's actions may not be about you at all. Perhaps they are dealing with their own struggles or challenges. By responding with compassion, you break the cycle of anger and resentment and open the door to healing and understanding. The Buddha's wisdom shows us that when we let go of our need to react, we open ourselves to a deeper level of peace and understanding. Anger, resentment, and hatred are like heavy burdens that we carry with us, and they only cause suffering for ourselves. When we practice non-reaction, we are choosing to let go of these burdens. We are choosing freedom. We are choosing inner peace. When we stop reacting impulsively, we create a life where we are no longer at the mercy of external circumstances. Instead, we become the masters of our own responses, choosing to meet the world with kindness, understanding, and compassion. By doing so, we free ourselves from the emotional chaos that often surrounds us, and we find the peace we have always sought right within our own hearts. The practice of non-reaction is not easy. It takes time, patience, and mindfulness. But with each moment of awareness, we become more adept at letting go of our attachment to anger and frustration. We begin to recognize that peace is not something we find in the external world. It is something we cultivate within ourselves. By embracing non-reaction, we begin to walk the path of true freedom. The more we practice this, the more we will find that we are no longer disturbed by the small things that once set us off. We will come to realize that our inner peace is not dependent on what happens around us, but on how we choose to respond to it. This is the gift of non-reaction, a gift that frees us from suffering and opens our hearts to the world. When we choose to respond with understanding, with calm, and with compassion, we not only bring peace to our own hearts, but we also radiate that peace to those around us. In this way, non-reaction becomes not only a personal practice, but a practice that has the power to heal and transform the world. By letting go of our need to react, we can create a world where peace, love, and understanding are the foundations of all our interactions. By practicing non-reaction, we choose the path of peace, and as we walk that path, we find that the world around us begins to reflect the peace we have cultivated within. It starts with us. It starts in the space between stimulus and response. And it begins with the simple act of choosing to let go of anger and embrace the wisdom of non-reaction. So as we learn not to react to what happens around us, can we accept every change life brings, whether good or bad? And in those moments, can we find peace, even when things don't go as we wish? Let's explore the story of the farmer and his horses. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled in the rolling hills of the countryside, there lived a farmer who had a reputation for being wise, patient, and content with his life. He was a simple man living in harmony with the land and its seasons. He had a small farm, a modest house, and a horse that helped him with his work. The horse was strong and reliable, and the farmer relied on it to plow the fields and carry heavy loads. One day, the farmer's horse ran away. The villagers came to him expressing their sympathy. "What bad luck," they said. "Your horse is gone. Now how will you manage your farm?" The farmer, however, simply replied, "Maybe it's bad luck. Maybe it's good luck. Who can say?" The villagers were confused by his response, but they left him to his work. A few days later, the farmer's horse returned, bringing with it a wild stallion. The villagers, amazed by the turn of events, came to the farmer again. "How lucky you are. Now you have 2 horses instead of 1, the farmer replied as calmly as before. "Maybe it's good luck. Maybe it's bad luck. Who can say?" The villagers once again were perplexed by his words, but they went about their business, marveling at his ability to remain so composed. Not long after, the farmer's son tried to tame the wild stallion. While riding it, he was thrown off and broke his leg. The villagers once again came to the farmer, offering their condolences. "What bad luck," they said. "Your son is hurt. How will you manage without him?" The farmer, in his usual calm manner, replied, "Maybe it's bad luck. Maybe it's good luck. Who can say?" A few weeks later, a war broke out, and the king's soldiers came to the village, conscripting all able-bodied young men to fight in the army. When they saw the farmer's son with a broken leg, they passed him by. "He's unfit for battle," they said. And so the farmer's son was spared from the war. The villagers, seeing the farmer's son left behind while others were taken, came to him once again. "How lucky you are," they exclaimed. "Your son has been spared from the war because of his injury." The farmer, as always, replied calmly, "Maybe it's good luck, maybe it's bad luck. Who can say?" This story reveals an important teaching about the nature of attachment and the way we cling to the idea of what is good or bad. The villagers, in their limited perspective, judged each event based on their immediate feelings or circumstances. They saw the loss of the horse as bad luck, the return of the horse as good luck, the injury of the farmer's son as bad luck, and the son's escape from the war as good luck. But the farmer, with his calm and wise perspective, recognized that life is full of change and unpredictability. What we consider good or bad is often just a matter of perspective. What seems like misfortune in the moment may in time reveal itself to be a blessing, and what seems like fortune can just as easily turn into hardship. Zen Buddhism teaches us that our attachment to outcomes is one of the main sources of suffering. We become attached to the idea that certain events or experiences should bring us happiness, success, or peace, and we cling to those desires. But life is unpredictable, and our attachment to outcomes often leads to disappointment when things don't go as we expect. The farmer's calm response to each change in his life is a reminder that we don't need to cling to the desire for things to be a certain way. When we let go of our attachment to outcomes, we can experience peace regardless of what life brings. Take a moment now to reflect on your own life. How often do you find yourself attached to specific outcomes or expectations? How often do you get frustrated or upset when things don't go the way you imagined? Perhaps you expected to receive recognition for your work only to be overlooked. Maybe you hoped for a certain outcome in a relationship, but things didn't turn out as planned. These are the tigers that chase us: our desires, our attachments, and our expectations of how life should unfold. How often do we become attached to the idea that things must go a certain way in order for us to be happy? We become attached to the idea that success, love, or recognition will bring us peace. And when those things don't come, we suffer. But the story of the farmer and his horse reminds us that life is full of twists and turns, and what seems like bad luck one moment may turn into good luck later. When we release our attachment to specific outcomes, we allow ourselves to experience life as it is, without the burden of expectation. The Buddha teaches that peace comes from within. It is not dependent on external circumstances or outcomes. When we let go of our attachment to how things should be, we free ourselves to experience life in a more profound and peaceful way. This doesn't mean that we stop caring about the things we love or desire. It simply means that we let go of the need for things to unfold in a certain way. We accept that life is full of uncertainty and that our true peace comes from within, not from the things we can't control. The practice of letting go of attachment requires us to observe our desires and expectations with mindfulness. When we notice that we are becoming attached to a particular outcome or ideal, we can take a step back and simply observe those feelings without judgment. We can remind ourselves that life is fluid, ever-changing, and beyond our control. And by letting go of our attachment to how things should be, we open ourselves to experiencing life as it is full of beauty, impermanence, and surprise. Every time we catch ourselves clinging to an outcome, we have an opportunity to practice letting go. It's not about denying our desires or pretending we don't care about the things that matter to us. It's about recognizing that the desire itself doesn't define our happiness. We can desire work for and strive toward things without attaching our sense of well-being to them. When we release the need to control or predict every outcome, we create space for peace and acceptance. As we reflect on the wisdom of the farmer, we are reminded of the importance of letting go of attachment and embracing life as it comes. Let us now continue our journey and explore a deeper understanding of the nature of suffering as we listen to the story of the monk and the wild strawberry, where we will learn how even in the most challenging times, we can find peace and joy by staying present in the moment. In a small Zen monastery nestled among the mountains, a young monk was cleaning the temple one day when he accidentally knocked over a delicate antique cup that had been passed down through generations. The cup shattered into pieces, the delicate fragments scattered across the floor. The young monk was devastated, as the cup was of great value both materially and symbolically. It had been a gift from the master's own teacher, and it held deep significance for the monks of the monastery. He knew that the master would be upset when he found out. In a panic, the young monk quickly gathered up the pieces and rushed to the master's quarters. With trembling hands, he presented the broken cup, bowing deeply and apologizing for his mistake. "Master," he said, "I have broken this precious cup. I am sorry. Please forgive me." The master looked at the shattered pieces for a moment and then gently said, "You have done nothing wrong." The cup was already broken. The young monk was confused. "But master, the cup is broken. I've ruined it. It cannot be fixed." The master smiled softly and replied, "The cup was always impermanent. From the moment it was made, it was destined to break. You did not break it. You simply witnessed its breaking. Everything in life is like this cup, fragile, fleeting, and ultimately impermanent. Nothing lasts forever, not even the things we hold most dear." The young monk paused, reflecting on the master's words. He began to understand that the cup was never truly whole in the way he had imagined it. Its beauty lay not in its permanence, but in its existence in the moment. The cup's value was not in how long it lasted, but in how it was appreciated in its time. The monk began to feel a deep sense of peace wash over him as he realized that the master was teaching him a profound lesson about the nature of attachment and impermanence. The story of the broken cup offers us a profound and transformative lesson about the nature of impermanence and the significance of releasing attachment. In our daily lives, we often become deeply attached to people, things, and even outcomes, believing that they are meant to last forever. We hold on tightly to these attachments sometimes without realizing it, driven by the desire to maintain control or to find comfort in the stability that these things bring. The cup, much like the people and experiences in our lives, symbolizes the things we treasure. But just as the cup eventually broke, everything in life is impermanent. People grow older, possessions wear out, and circumstances change. If we hold tightly to the belief that anything in life is permanent, we set ourselves up for inevitable suffering when those things, people, or experiences inevitably change or fade away. The Buddha taught that attachment is one of the root causes of suffering. This attachment doesn't only refer to material possessions, but also to our desires, relationships, and even certain beliefs about who we are and what we should achieve. When we attach ourselves to these things, we mistakenly believe that their presence in our lives will bring us lasting happiness. But this is an illusion. Everything in the world, including ourselves, is constantly changing. Clinging to something or someone, whether it be a relationship, a job, or even an idea of how life should be, inevitably leads to suffering when that thing or person is no longer there. The more tightly we grip on, the greater the suffering we experience when we inevitably have to let go. But when we embrace the truth of impermanence, when we accept that nothing in life lasts forever, we can find peace in the present moment. We no longer live in fear of losing what we hold dear, because we come to understand that the value of those things lies not in their permanence, but in their fleeting existence. In the story of the broken cup, the master's wisdom did not lie in lamenting the loss of the cup, nor in expressing sorrow for its brokenness. Instead, the master's lesson was that the cup's value was never about its ability to remain unbroken forever. The cup's true value was found in the moments when it was whole in the beauty it brought to those who admired it, in the way it was used to share tea-hold flowers or simply be present in the moment. The same truth applies to everything in our lives. The relationships we cherish, the experiences we hold dear, and the material things we collect are not valuable because they will last forever. Their value lies in their existence in the present moment, in the way they enrich our lives now, while they are with us. The impermanence of life makes each moment, each experience, and each person we encounter more precious. When we let go of the desire for things to last forever, we open ourselves to a deeper appreciation of the fleeting beauty of the present. In our own lives, we often find ourselves clinging to things, whether it's a possession, a relationship, or an idea of how we think life should be. We worry about losing what we have, and this fear of loss can consume us. But the practice of letting go of attachment allows us to release this fear and experience life more freely. The next time you find yourself holding on to something too tightly, whether it's a job, a relationship, or a specific outcome, take a moment to pause and reflect. Can you let go of the need for it to last forever? Can you appreciate it for what it is in the present moment, knowing that its impermanence is what makes it valuable? Allow yourself to release the fear of loss and simply be present with what is. This practice is not about detachment in the sense of indifference, but about non-attachment. Non-attachment is the ability to enjoy the moment without being controlled by the fear of losing it. It is the freedom to experience life fully without the weight of expectations or the need for things to stay the same. Non-attachment allows us to experience a deeper sense of peace because we no longer need to fight against the flow of life. We accept that change is inevitable, and we become more open to embracing life as it unfolds. This practice helps us to focus on what we can control our responses to life, rather than trying to control everything around us. It invites us to experience each moment as it is without projecting our fears, desires, or expectations onto it. This shift in perspective can bring great freedom, because when we stop worrying about how long something will last, or whether we will lose it, we are free to enjoy it fully while it is with us. As we continue our journey tonight, let us reflect on the lesson of the broken cup. Life is full of fleeting moments that come and go. Whether it's a joyful experience or a difficult one, all things are impermanent. The cup may break, but the lesson it carries remains with us. Each moment we experience is like the cup, beautiful and valuable, because it exists, not because it will last forever. The moment we are in right now, with all its beauty and impermanence, is enough. It is all we need to find peace and contentment. Take a deep breath now and allow yourself to embrace the impermanence of life. Let go of the need to control or hold on to things. Trust that in each moment there is beauty to be found, even if it is only temporary. Just as the cup was beautiful in its wholeness and in its breaking, so too are the moments of our lives valuable in their fleeting nature. As we move forward, let this lesson of impermanence guide you. Appreciate the moments you have without clinging to them. Let go of the fear of loss and embrace the flow of life, knowing that everything is temporary. And in that temporary nature, there is a deep sense of peace and freedom. The story of the broken cup teaches us that the things we value most are fleeting, and yet there is wisdom in letting go of our attachments. So how do we move through life without holding on to the things that inevitably change? How do we cultivate a sense of mastery, not over the world, but over ourselves? Let's continue now and explore the Zen archer's practice of no mind, where we learn to release control and find ease in the flow of life. In the heart of a quiet, mist-covered forest, a young Zen student approached his master with a question that had troubled him for some time. "Master," he asked, "I have practiced archery for many years, but I cannot seem to reach the level of true mastery. I aim carefully. I focus, but still my arrows fall short of the target. What is the secret to becoming a true archer, to truly mastering the bow and the arrow?" The Zen master, who had spent decades honing his own skills, smiled softly and said, "Come with me." He led the student to a clearing where a target was set up at a distance. The master handed the student a bow and arrow, then gestured to the target. "Take aim and shoot," he instructed. The student drew the bowstring back, focused on the target, and released the arrow. It soared through the air, but it missed the target completely, landing far off to the side. Frustrated, the student pulled another arrow from his quiver and tried again. And again, the arrow missed its mark. After several attempts, the student began to feel disheartened. "Master," he said, "I am still failing. What am I doing wrong?" The master took the bow from the student's hands and calmly said, "Now let me show you." The master stood tall, his posture calm, and relaxed his gaze unwavering. Without hesitation, he drew the bow, aimed not at the target, but at the space before him, and released the arrow. It flew gracefully through the air, hitting the target dead center. The student stood in awe, but he was also confused. "Master, how did you do that? What was the secret?" The master replied, "You were aiming at the target. You were trying to control the outcome, to force the arrow to hit the mark. But the true archer does not aim at the target with force. The true archer is at one with the bow and the arrow. He is without ego, without attachment to the result. This is called no mind. When you let go of the need to control, when you release your attachment to the outcome, your actions flow effortlessly and naturally." The story of the Zen archer imparts a profound lesson about the importance of releasing the need to control and instead allowing ourselves to be fully present in the moment with each action. The young student's frustration arose because he was too focused on the target, on the result of the shot, and in doing so, he created unnecessary tension in his body and mind. He was forcing himself to aim to control the path of the arrow and to bring about a specific outcome. The more he tried to control, the further he moved away from the clarity and flow required to achieve the goal. His mind was cluttered with thoughts of success and failure, of hitting the target or missing. This internal noise created a disconnect between him and the process, but the master's ability to hit the target, in contrast, came not from a forced, concentrated effort, nor from focusing on the end result, but from a deep, effortless presence in the moment. The master's success came from being one with the bow and arrow, allowing each step of the process to unfold naturally without striving to control it. His actions were guided by an inner clarity, a calm focus that didn't attach to the outcome, but rather trusted in the flow of the moment. In this state of complete presence, the archer was not separate from the bow and the arrow, but part of the natural unfolding of the process. This state of mind in Zen is known as no mind, or mushin. It is the state of being fully present without any attachment to the result or outcome. When we are in a state of no mind, we let go of the distractions of the ego, of the constant chatter in our heads that pushes us to achieve, to win, or to control. We allow ourselves to simply act without clinging to the idea of success or failure. Our actions come from a place of flow clarity and mindfulness, unburdened by fear, desire, or attachment. In the state of no mind, we are fully immersed in the present, and in that immersion, we find the ability to perform with greater ease, focus, and grace. The true Zen archer does not force the arrow to hit the target. Instead, he becomes one with the process. He trusts in the natural unfolding of each moment and allows the arrow to fly without the weight of expectation or anxiety attached to it. The result is a harmonious alignment between the archer, the bow, and the arrow, a seamless connection that transcends the need to control. The Buddha taught, "The mind is everything. What you think you become." When we fixate too much on the end result, on the future, or on our fears of failure, we cloud our minds and block ourselves from being present. Our thoughts become dominated by worry, by what could go wrong, or by the pressure to succeed. But the true path to mastery, whether in archery or in life, is through the release of attachment. It is through letting go of the need to control, to force things into a specific shape, and instead embracing the moment with full presence. By focusing on the present and trusting the process, we free ourselves from the mental clutter that hinders our natural flow. In letting go of attachment to the result, we discover that we can act with greater focus and clarity without the burden of anxiety or frustration. In our daily lives, we often find ourselves struggling to control outcomes. Whether it's our work relationships or personal goals, we are constantly aiming at targets, trying to make things happen in a specific way. We set our sights on a goal believing that it is the only path to happiness, fulfillment, or success. But when we focus too much on the outcome, we create stress, tension, and frustration. We become attached to a particular result, and this attachment only leads to suffering. The more we strive for control, the more we push away the natural flow of life. We become rigid, tense, and disconnected from the present. The practice of no mind invites us to let go of this need to control and instead focus on the present moment, on the process of doing, rather than obsessing over the result. This doesn't mean abandoning our goals or losing our ambition, but it means approaching each task with mindfulness, openness, and flexibility. By letting go of the need to control the outcome, we allow ourselves to engage with the task at hand with greater ease, focus, and clarity. Take a moment now to reflect. Are there areas in your life where you are clinging to a specific outcome? Perhaps at work, in your personal relationships, or in the pursuit of a goal, you are trying to force things to happen in a particular way. How would it feel to let go of that attachment, to trust the process, and to simply focus on what you are doing in the moment? What might happen if you allowed yourself to act without fear of failure or without the pressure of controlling the result? The freedom to let go of attachment is a powerful one. It allows us to move through life with greater ease, to approach each moment with presence, and to trust that by being fully engaged in the process, the results will unfold naturally, without force or resistance. The next time you find yourself aiming at a target, whether it's a task at work, a goal in your personal life, or a challenge you're facing, try to approach it with the mindset of no mind. Let go of the need for perfection. Let go of the need to control and simply be present with the task. Trust that by being fully engaged in the moment, the result will come naturally, without the pressure of expectation. In the end, it is not the target we should focus on, but the act of aiming itself, the process, the journey, the experience of the moment. When we let go of the need to control and embrace the flow of life, we discover that true mastery comes not from force, but from presence. As we continue on this journey tonight, let us reflect on the wisdom of the Zen archer. Life is full of targets, full of goals and desires. But true peace comes not from achieving these goals, but from how we engage with the process. By letting go of the need to control and attaching ourselves to the moment, we free ourselves from the frustration and suffering that comes with unmet expectations. Life becomes less about reaching a specific destination and more about embracing the path step by step. Take a deep breath now and allow yourself to release any attachments to specific outcomes. Trust that by focusing on the present moment, by embracing the process, you will find peace in every step of the journey. The act of letting go is not a surrender of ambition, but a surrender of attachment. When we release our grasp on the future, we open ourselves up to the beauty and wisdom that each moment holds. As we reflect on the Zen archer's lesson of non-attachment and no mind, we are reminded that true mastery comes not from controlling the outcome, but from being fully present in each moment. But how do we remain present when life's path feels difficult and uncomfortable? Let us now journey to a dusty road where we will discover how the Zen master teaches his disciple to embrace life's challenges without resistance. There was once a young monk who was traveling with his Zen master to a distant monastery. The journey was long and tiring, and the path they walked on was not smooth. The road was dirty, filled with mud, and the weather was sweltering, making each step heavy. After several hours of walking, the young monk, tired and frustrated, began to complain. "Master, this road is so dirty and the sun is too hot. Why must we walk this way? Why can't we take a more comfortable path?" he asked. The Zen master, who had been walking in silence, turned to the young monk and smiled. "It is true that the road is dirty and the sun is hot. But do you think complaining about it will make the road cleaner or the sun cooler?" The young monk paused, realizing the wisdom in his master's words. "No, master. Complaining will not change anything," he said. The master nodded. "Exactly. The road is what it is. The sun is as it is. They are beyond our control, but our response to them is what matters. We can choose to suffer because the road is dirty, or we can choose to walk with peace, accepting things as they are." The young monk fell silent, reflecting on the master's words. As they continued walking, he realized that his frustration had only added to his suffering. The road was still the same, and the sun was still hot, but by letting go of his complaints, he felt a sense of peace. He no longer resisted the discomfort of the journey. He simply walked step by step in the moment, This story teaches us an important lesson about how we approach life's difficulties. Much like the young monk, we all face moments in our lives that are uncomfortable, challenging, or unpleasant. Sometimes it's a difficult task at work, where the pressure to perform feels overwhelming. At other times, it may be a challenging relationship, where communication seems strained and misunderstandings keep cropping up. Or it could be something as simple as being on a hot and dusty road with every step feeling like a struggle. Whatever the situation, when we are faced with discomfort or hardship, our instinct is often to resist, to wish for things to be different, or to complain about our circumstances. We may feel as though we don't deserve to be in this position, that things should be easier or more comfortable. And it's easy to believe that our discomfort is the result of the situation itself, that the circumstances are causing our suffering. But as the Zen master shows us, it is not the road or the circumstances that cause our suffering. It is our reaction to them. The road is dirty, yes, but that's simply the reality of the moment. The sun is hot, but again, that too is a fact of the situation. These things are beyond our control. The only thing we truly have control over is how we respond. The lesson the Zen master imparts is profound. By accepting the situation as it is without resistance or complaint, we free ourselves from the suffering that comes from struggling against what cannot be changed. In other words, the more we resist, the more we add to our own suffering. If we can accept things as they are, we can walk through life with a sense of peace, no matter what challenges arise along the way. The Buddha taught that suffering arises not from the conditions of life, but from our attachment to how we believe life should be. We often think that we have the right to a life of comfort and ease, that things should go smoothly, without interruption. But life doesn't work that way. The path we walk, whether it's smooth or rough, is always changing. The moment we start to resist what is happening, we create additional suffering for ourselves. This resistance is like an invisible weight we carry with us, one that prevents us from fully embracing the present moment. It's important to note that acceptance doesn't mean we passively endure hardship without any effort to change the situation. It means we stop fighting against the reality of what is happening. When we accept things as they are, we can begin to focus on how we can respond with peace and mindfulness, instead of being consumed by frustration, anger, or anxiety. In our own lives, we are constantly confronted with situations that challenge us. Maybe it's a task at work that seems insurmountable, or a conversation with a loved one that is filled with tension. Perhaps it's an obstacle that unexpectedly appears in our path, or an aspect of life that we simply wish we could change. In these moments, how often do we find ourselves resisting the situation? How often do we complain, wishing things were different, hoping for a way out? The practice of acceptance invites us to let go of this resistance. Instead of wishing things were easier, we can embrace each situation as it is, recognizing that this is the path we are meant to walk right now. Acceptance allows us to move through life without the unnecessary burden of wishing for things to be different. It doesn't mean we have to like everything that happens to us, but it does mean that we choose to accept it, knowing that the moment we stop fighting against the present, we can find peace in it. Take a moment now to reflect on your own life. Is there a situation that has been causing you frustration, discomfort, or stress? Can you identify where you are resisting it, wishing for it to be different, or complaining about how unfair it is? What would happen if you let go of that resistance and simply accepted things as they are? What if you approached the situation with a sense of peace without the need to control or change it? How might your experience change if you were able to embrace the present moment, fully without judgment or complaint? Next time you encounter an unpleasant situation or challenge, try to remember the wisdom of the Zen master. Instead of focusing on how uncomfortable it is, bring your attention to the present moment. Notice how you are feeling what is happening in the situation and accept it as it is. You may not be able to change the circumstances, but you can change your relationship to them. By accepting the situation, you free yourself from the added suffering that comes from resistance, and you open yourself up to a more peaceful and mindful experience. Life is full of challenges and discomforts, but how we respond to them is what truly matters. When we stop fighting against the difficulties we face, when we let go of our resistance and accept life as it is, we can find peace even in the most trying circumstances. It is in these moments of acceptance that we experience true freedom. Freedom from the anxiety of trying to control what cannot be controlled, and freedom from the suffering that comes from wishing things were different. Life is not about avoiding discomfort. It's about learning to embrace it with grace and understanding. As we walk the muddy road with the Zen master embracing life's challenges with mindfulness, we now turn inward to explore the power of silence. When the world is loud and full of distractions, can we find peace in stillness? Let's now journey into the wisdom of silence, where we learn how moments of quiet reflection can deepen our understanding and bring clarity to our lives. In a tranquil Zen monastery nestled deep in the mountains, there lived a wise and revered master. He had many students eager to learn the teachings of Zen, to practice mindfulness, and to discover the path to enlightenment. One day, a young monk full of questions and curiosity approached the master with a request. Master, the monk said, "I wish to learn all the teachings of Zen. I want to understand the nature of life, the truth about suffering, and the path to enlightenment. Will you teach me the secret of Zen?" The master, who was known for his wisdom, looked at the young monk for a moment and then said, "I will teach you, but first, you must spend the day in silence. Come with me." The monk, eager to learn, agreed and followed the master to a quiet garden at the edge of the monastery. There they sat side by side, surrounded by the peaceful sounds of nature. The master gestured for the young monk to sit, and then he himself sat quietly, with no words spoken between them. Hours passed, and the young monk, restless with curiosity and impatience, could not hold back. He fidgeted, glanced at the master, and finally asked, "Master, why do we sit here in silence? I have many questions. What is the meaning of Zen? Why do we meditate? I am eager to learn." The master remained silent, his eyes calm and focused. He did not respond, nor did he break the quiet. The young monk, feeling somewhat confused and frustrated, asked again, "Master, please tell me the answer to my questions. Why do we sit here in silence?" After some time, the master turned to the young monk and said softly, "Do you hear the sound of the wind in the trees? Do you feel the warmth of the sun on your skin? Do you see the beauty of the flowers, the ripples on the pond?" The monk nodded, but still he could not understand the master's meaning. The master continued, "The answers you seek are not in words. They are in the silence, in the stillness of the present moment. When you quiet your mind, when you cease your constant asking, you will find the truth you seek. It is not in the noise of your thoughts, but in the peace that arises when you are fully present." The young monk sat in silence, beginning to understand the master's lesson. In the stillness, he began to feel a sense of peace, a clarity that had eluded him in his restless questioning. The more he allowed himself to be present with the silence, the more he felt a deep sense of connection to everything around him. He understood at last that Zen was not something to be grasped with the mind, but something to be experienced in the heart in the quiet moments of awareness. The story of the young monk and the master offers us a profound lesson about the importance of silence in our lives. We live in a world filled with noise, constant chatter, thoughts racing through our minds, distractions that pull us in many directions. In such a world, it is easy to forget the power of silence, the wisdom that lies in quieting the mind and simply being present. Silence is not merely the absence of sound. It is a state of awareness, a space in which we can connect with the deeper truths of life. In silence, we can hear the wisdom of our own hearts, the subtle whispers of insight that arise when we stop trying to control or force our experiences. It is in silence that we can feel the interconnectedness of all things, the unity that exists beneath the surface of our busy, distracted lives. The Buddha taught silence is a source of great strength. In silence, we find the ability to truly listen to ourselves, to others, and to the world around us. It is in silence that we can hear the teachings of the present moment, where everything we need to know is already available. But we must be still enough to listen. The young monk's frustration with silence mirrors our own tendency to fill every moment with thoughts, questions, and desires. We believe that answers lie in the noise and the constant stream of mental activity. But as the Master shows, it is only when we allow ourselves to be quiet, to be present in the moment, that we can truly understand the nature of Zen and the deeper truths of life. In our busy lives, it can be difficult to find moments of silence. Our minds are constantly racing, filled with thoughts, worries, and distractions. Yet it is in silence that we can truly connect with ourselves and the world around us. The practice of silence is not just about stopping the external noise. It is about quieting the internal chatter, letting go of the need to constantly analyze and judge. Take a moment now to reflect. When was the last time you experienced true silence? Not just the absence of sound, but the absence of internal noise, the quieting of your thoughts, the stillness of your mind. How did it feel? Did you feel more connected, more at peace? Or did you feel restless and uncomfortable? Next time you find yourself caught in the noise of daily life, try to carve out a moment of silence. It doesn't need to be long, just a few moments where you can sit in stillness, allowing your mind to rest. Focus on your breath, on the sensations in your body, on the sounds of nature, or the quiet around you. In those moments, allow yourself to be fully present without any need to do or think. Let go of the desire for answers and simply be. As we continue our journey tonight, let us reflect on the wisdom of silence. In a world filled with noise and distractions, silence offers us a refuge, a space where we can reconnect with our true selves. It is in silence that we can find clarity, peace, and insight. Take a deep breath now, and as you exhale, let go of any mental chatter or distractions. Allow yourself to settle into the present moment, embracing the stillness around you. Know that in this moment, in this silence, you are already connected to everything you need to know. As we reflect on the profound wisdom that arises in moments of silence, we are reminded that true clarity comes from stillness and presence. But how do we bring this clarity into our daily actions? How do we live in a way that aligns with the peace we cultivate in silence? Let's now explore the 5 precepts of Zen, where we learn the ethical foundations for living mindfully with integrity and compassion in every moment. In a small, quiet temple at the edge of a dense forest, a Zen master sat surrounded by his disciples. The air was still, and the only sound was the soft rustling of leaves in the wind. one of the young disciples eager to learn the path of Zen approached the master with a question. "Master," he asked, "I have heard that there are guidelines for living a Zen life principles that help guide us toward peace and enlightenment. What are these principles? How can I live in a way that aligns with the teachings of Zen?" The Zen master looked at the young monk with kind eyes and said, "The 5 precepts are the foundation of Zen practice. They are not rules to follow out of obligation, but principles that help you live with mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. When you live by these precepts, you create harmony within yourself and with the world around you." The young monk listened intently, eager to learn more. The master continued, "The first precept is to refrain from killing. All life is sacred, and we must cultivate compassion for all living beings. When we choose not to harm others, whether human, animal, or plant, we create peace within ourselves and in the world around us. The second precept is to refrain from stealing. To take what is not given to us creates disharmony and mistrust. In Zen, we are taught to honor the possessions and rights of others and to cultivate generosity and integrity in all our actions. The third precept is to refrain from sexual misconduct. This precept encourages us to cultivate respectful and mindful relationships with others, to honor the sanctity of our connections, and to practice love and care in all our interactions. The fourth precept is to refrain from false speech. Our words have power. When we speak falsely, we cause harm to others and to ourselves. In Zen, we practice truthfulness, honesty, and integrity in our speech, speaking only what is helpful, kind, and true. The fifth precept is to refrain from intoxicants that cloud the mind. When our minds are clouded, we lose clarity and wisdom. By avoiding substances that dull our awareness, we create space for mindfulness, wisdom, and insight. The 5 precepts of Zen offer us simple yet profound guidelines for living a life of peace and mindfulness. They are not commandments, but teachings that help us navigate the complexities of life with a clear mind and a compassionate heart. Each precept calls us to be more mindful of our actions, to be more aware of how we interact with others and with the world around us, and to cultivate wisdom and compassion in every moment. At the heart of the 5 precepts is the recognition that our actions, words, and thoughts all have consequences. When we live in alignment with these principles, we create a life of harmony, not only for ourselves, but for all those we interact with. The precepts help us to live with integrity, to treat others with kindness and respect, and to cultivate a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. The first precept, refraining from killing, is not limited to physical harm, but extends to mental and emotional harm as well. Every time we harbor ill will toward another, every time we allow anger or hatred to cloud our hearts, we cause harm not only to the other person, but also to ourselves. The precept of non-harming calls us to cultivate compassion, to recognize the sacredness of all life, and to act with care and respect toward all living beings. The second precept, refraining from stealing, encourages us to practice generosity and honesty. It teaches us that true wealth is not found in possessions, but in the richness of our relationships, our connections with others, and our ability to give freely and without expectation. By honoring the belongings and rights of others, we create trust and harmony, both within ourselves and in the world around us. The third precept, refraining from sexual misconduct, invites us to approach relationships with mindfulness and respect. It encourages us to cultivate love that is pure, compassionate, and free from attachment. When we honor the sanctity of our relationships, we deepen our connection with others and create a foundation of mutual respect and care. The fourth precept, refraining from false speech, calls us to speak with truth, kindness, and clarity. Our words have the power to heal or to harm, to uplift or to destroy. By choosing our words carefully, by speaking with honesty and integrity, we create harmony in our relationships and contribute to the well-being of others. The fifth precept, refraining from intoxicants, reminds us to be mindful of our mental and emotional clarity. When we allow substances to cloud our minds, we lose our ability to be fully present, to make wise decisions, and to cultivate awareness. By avoiding intoxicants, we clear the path for mindfulness and wisdom to flourish. In our daily lives, the 5 precepts offer us a practical guide for living with mindfulness and integrity. Whether we are at home, at work, or in the world, these principles help us navigate the complexities of human interaction with clarity and compassion. Take a moment now to reflect on each precept. Are there areas in your life where you may be struggling to live in alignment with these teachings? Are there moments when you have acted in ways that do not reflect your deepest values? Are there situations where you could bring more mindfulness, more compassion, and more honesty into your interactions? Next time you encounter a situation where one of the precepts is challenged, whether it's in a conversation, a decision, or an action, remember the wisdom of Zen. Stop and take a breath. Ask yourself, what is the most compassionate, honest, and mindful response I can offer in this moment? By doing so, you create space for wisdom, peace, and harmony to emerge in your life. As we continue our journey tonight, let us reflect on the 5 precepts and how they guide us in living with integrity. Every moment is an opportunity to align our actions with our deepest values, to create peace within ourselves and in the world around us. By living in accordance with these teachings, we cultivate a life of mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. Take a deep breath now and reflect on how you can live more fully in alignment with the 5 precepts. Trust that as you walk this path, you will create more harmony in your life, deepen your relationships, and experience a greater sense of peace and well-being. As we embrace the 5 precepts as guiding principles for mindful living, we are reminded that true wisdom and growth require patience and consistency. But how do we cultivate that wisdom over time without rushing the process? Let's now journey to the story of the mountain and the seed, where we learn the importance of gradual growth and the beauty of allowing life to unfold at its own pace. In a remote Zen monastery nestled at the foot of a great mountain, there was a young monk who was eager to learn the true nature of growth and wisdom. One day, feeling a strong desire to understand the deeper truths of life, he went to his master and asked, "Master, how can I grow in wisdom and reach the peak of understanding as quickly as possible?" The master, who had spent many years meditating on the mysteries of life, looked out toward the towering mountain. He then picked up a small seed from the ground and handed it to the young monk. "Take this seed," he said, "and plant it in the earth. Care for it, water it, and give it the proper conditions to grow. But do not rush it. Let it grow at its own pace." The young monk, eager for wisdom, took the seed and hurriedly planted it in the ground behind the temple. He watered it each day, watching over it with great care and anticipation. However, after several weeks of tending to the seed, he noticed no sign of growth. The soil remained barren, the seed unchanged. Frustrated, he went back to the master and said, "Master, I've done everything you said, but the seed has not grown. Why is it taking so long? I have been patient, but I want to see results." The master smiled gently and replied, "You have planted the seed, but you are impatient for its growth. The seed will grow in its own time, and the conditions must be right. No matter how much you wish it to grow faster, the seed cannot rush its development. It needs time, nourishment, and patience. So too is the growth of wisdom and understanding. You cannot force it. It will come gradually, like the growth of the seed. The young monk, understanding the master's words, left to care for the seed once again. Over time, he allowed the plant to grow at its own pace. It slowly began to sprout, eventually becoming a strong tree, its branches reaching toward the sky. The monk had learned that true growth, whether in wisdom, knowledge, or life, takes time and cannot be rushed. The story of the mountain and the seed teaches us a profound lesson about patience, growth, and the natural pace of life. In our fast-paced world, we often expect quick results, whether in our personal development, our careers, or our spiritual practice. We want to achieve success, wisdom, or understanding as quickly as possible. And when things don't happen immediately, we become frustrated and discouraged. However, the Zen master's teaching reminds us that growth is a natural process that takes time. Just as the seed cannot rush its journey into becoming a tree, we too must allow ourselves to grow at our own pace without forcing or hurrying the process. The Buddha spoke often about the gradual nature of personal growth. He taught that wisdom comes over time through continuous practice, mindfulness, and patience. The path to enlightenment is not a race. It is a slow, steady journey that unfolds over the course of a lifetime. Just as a seed needs time to grow, we need time to deepen our understanding, heal our wounds, and cultivate wisdom. When we are patient with ourselves and with the process of growth, we free ourselves from the stress and frustration that come with trying to force outcomes. By trusting in the natural unfolding of life, we can experience peace and acceptance, knowing that every step we take is part of the journey, even if we cannot see immediate results. In our own lives, how often do we feel frustrated when we don't see quick results? Whether it's in our personal growth, our relationships, or our work, we often expect immediate success or progress. But just like the seed, true growth takes time. It requires patience, consistency, and a willingness to trust in the process. Take a moment now to reflect. Are there areas of your life where you are rushing for results, where you are feeling impatient with the pace of progress? Can you think of a time when you tried to hurry something along, and in doing so created unnecessary stress or frustration for yourself? How would it feel to let go of the need for immediate results and simply allow things to unfold naturally? The next time you feel impatience rising within you, try to remember the lesson of the seed. Take a deep breath and remind yourself that growth is a gradual process. Instead of focusing on the end result, bring your attention to the present moment and the steps you are taking right now. Trust that in time, the results will come, but that peace is found in the journey itself. As we continue our journey tonight, let us reflect on the Zen master's wisdom. The seed's growth teaches us that we cannot rush life's processes. The wisdom we seek, the personal growth we desire, and the understanding of life's mysteries all take time. When we embrace the pace of growth, we let go of our attachment to specific outcomes and allow ourselves to trust in the unfolding of our lives. Take a deep breath now, and as you exhale, release any impatience or frustration. Trust in the process of growth, both in your life and in your practice. Allow yourself to move forward with patience, knowing that every step, no matter how small, brings you closer to the understanding and peace you seek. As we reflect on the gradual growth of the seed, we are reminded that wisdom and peace unfold in their own time. But how do we approach the journey of growth when we are so often filled with preconceived ideas and expectations. Let's now explore the story of the empty cup, where we learn that true wisdom comes not from accumulation, but from the willingness to empty ourselves, making space for new insights and understanding. One afternoon, a famous scholar traveled to a Zen monastery to meet the revered Zen master. The scholar had heard of the master's wisdom and had come with many questions, eager to challenge the master's teachings and prove his own knowledge. He approached the master, respectfully bowed deeply, and said, "Master, I have studied the teachings of many great philosophers and I have much knowledge, but I am eager to hear your wisdom. Please share with me your most profound teachings." The Zen master, without a word, gestured for the scholar to sit. He brought 2 cups of tea, one for himself and one for the scholar, and began pouring the tea. As he poured, the master's hands remained steady, but the scholar, noticing that the master was filling his cup to the brim, became increasingly uncomfortable. "Master," the scholar interrupted, "your cup is already full. Why do you keep pouring tea into it? The cup cannot hold more." The master looked at the scholar with a gentle smile and said, "You are like this cup, already full of your own ideas, beliefs, and knowledge. Before I can teach you anything, you must first empty your cup. You must let go of your preconceived notions and be open to receiving new wisdom. Only when you are empty like this cup can you truly receive the teachings of Zen." The scholar was taken aback, surprised by the simplicity and depth of the master's response. He had come to the monastery believing that his knowledge would be the key to understanding Zen, but the master's words revealed a deeper truth, that true wisdom comes not from accumulation, but from the willingness to empty oneself of attachment and ego. The story of the empty cup offers a profound lesson about the nature of wisdom and learning. So often in life, we approach new experiences or teachings with the assumption that we already know everything we need to know. Our minds are full of opinions, judgments, and preconceived notions, and we believe that more knowledge will bring us peace or understanding. However, true wisdom does not come from accumulation. It comes from letting go. The Zen master's teaching is about humility. It is about recognizing that in order to grow, we must be willing to empty our minds of fixed ideas and beliefs. We must approach life with an open heart, ready to receive new insights free from attachment to the past or to what we think we already know. In Zen, this practice of emptying the cup is closely tied to the concept of beginner's mind, the mindset of approaching each moment with a sense of openness, curiosity, and receptivity. When we cultivate beginner's mind, we are not bound by our past experiences or assumptions. We are free to experience the world as it is without the filter of our judgments and expectations. The Buddha taught, "The mind is everything. What you think, you become." If our minds are full of preconceived ideas, judgments, and attachments, we are unable to see clearly. But when we empty the cup of our mind, we make space for true wisdom to arise. We allow ourselves to be present with the world without the distortion of our own thoughts and biases. In our daily lives, we often carry around mental clutter, thoughts, beliefs, and judgments that we have accumulated over time. We may hold on to ideas about ourselves, about others, or about the way the world works, believing that these thoughts are true or necessary. But the practice of emptying the mind invites us to release this mental baggage, to let go of the need to control or understand everything, and to approach life with an open and receptive heart. Take a moment now to reflect. Are there any preconceived ideas or judgments you are holding on to? Perhaps you have fixed beliefs about certain situations, people, or yourself, How might your life change if you allowed yourself to let go of these mental constructs, just as you would empty a full cup? Next time you feel yourself holding on to an idea or judgment, pause and take a deep breath. Imagine that you are emptying your cup, releasing the attachment to your thoughts, and allowing your mind to become clear and open. Trust that in this space of emptiness, new wisdom can arise. The practice of emptying the cup is not about rejecting knowledge or dismissing our experiences. It is about being open to the possibility that there is always more to learn, always more to discover. By letting go of our attachment to fixed ideas, we create space for new understanding, for deeper insights, and for a greater sense of peace. As we prepare to conclude our journey tonight, let us reflect on the lesson of the empty cup. True wisdom comes from the willingness to let go, to empty the mind of unnecessary thoughts and attachments, and to approach life with an open heart and mind. By emptying the cup, we make space for new experiences, new teachings, and new understandings. Take a deep breath now, and as you exhale, let go of any judgments, beliefs, or thoughts that may be cluttering your mind. Empty your cup, allowing yourself to be fully present in the moment. Trust that in this space of emptiness, wisdom will arise naturally. Remember, the path to wisdom is not through accumulation, but through letting go. By emptying the cup of our minds, we make room for the deeper truths that lie within and around us. And it is in this openness that we find peace, clarity, and understanding. As we come to the end of this journey together, let us take a moment to reflect on the wisdom we've shared. Remember, peace is not found in perfect circumstances, but in how we choose to engage with each moment, no matter what it brings. Life is full of changes, joy and sorrow, calm and storm, and it is in how we respond to these changes that we find our true peace. Take a deep breath now, and as you exhale, let go of any tension, any worries that may still linger. Know that you are exactly where you need to be in this moment. All is well. All is unfolding as it should. You are at peace with yourself, with the world, and with the present moment. As we close, remember that the path to peace is not about achieving something or getting somewhere. It is about being fully present in each breath, each thought, and each action. The teachings we've explored tonight are here for you to guide you whenever you need them. Whether you are facing a challenge or simply walking through the ordinary moments of your day, you can always return to the wisdom of being present, letting go, and accepting life as it is. So, as you settle into rest tonight, carry with you the stillness and the peace of this moment. Let your heart be light, knowing that the path to peace is already within you, always waiting for you to return. Take one last deep breath and let it go. Feel the calm within you grow. May you sleep in peace, and may you wake with clarity, ready to embrace the new day. Sweet dreams.